All right, everyone. How's everybody doing? It is, what is today? February 17th, 2021. It is 9 o'clock in the eastern United States. I have no idea what time it is where you are, but we're starting the show. How is everybody? Here's what I can tell you about Florida. We don't have any snow. And it was like 71 degrees out today. I know, really unpleasant. A little overcast, not very sunny, not even that windy, but a lot of clouds, no rain. Real good day to play disc golf. And so I did get a little throwing in today after I worked on Friday's episode. But for all of you out there, I see your posts, especially from the Texas area. We have a lot of viewers and listeners in Texas. I see you, Kim. And I think many of you know I've been in Florida. It'll be about 9.5 years. Before that, it was in Las Vegas for 13 years. Although I did see snow there. I would say it snowed there about 6 of the 13 winters I spent there, something like that. So there was some snow. We had a little bit of icy road conditions while I lived there, but I got my fill of snow living in Pennsylvania for 28 years, almost 28 years. And even for the 4 years that I went to college, I even got it worse because I went north to go to college. And Grove City, where I went, would get what you call the lake effect off the Great Lakes, specifically Lake Erie. And it would bring a lot of snow to Erie and south of there where I went to school. And I can just remember some crazy snowstorms when I was going to school there. So I know what snow is all about. I know it's all about with icy roads and everything else. And that's why I don't live in those type of climates anymore. But so I feel for all of you. I read about all the power being out. I've experienced it. I can remember in high school us being up without power for days and no heat either because our heat was electric, unlike it wasn't gas. So I've been there. It's no fun. No fun at all. So hang in there everywhere, everybody. I can assure you spring and summer are coming just like they have every other year. So who's in here? Fishing, working OT. Well, I hope you're cashing in those OT bucks. Fishing, thank you. Hello, Tammy. Eileen. Come on, Eileen. And Fishing said it's cold here in Southeast Alabama. Yeah. I live near the Florida, Alabama, Georgia line. Been there. And Concha and Brianna. The Misfit. Karen, Susan, Carrie, Jasmine, Kim. 24 degrees in Oklahoma. Hello. Kim says, rub it in, Ed. Not trying to rub it in. And Kathy, who we got to speak with this past weekend. Ruth. Carrie says, I am next day shipping this cloud poop to you. Okay. Like I said, I'm not, of course, a lot of people who live in Florida now have come from snowy climates to move here. And it's one of the reasons. I guess they may get some snow up in the panhandle. It does get cold up in the panhandle, but we're just not going to see any of that down here. And Melissa says, Ann and I are here and have power. Good for you, Melissa. Melissa, are you watching on the TV or are you watching on the computer? Interesting. Somebody sent me a picture. I don't know if it was you, Melissa. Somebody sent me a picture of them watching me on their big screen TV. I was like, wow, I'm big. Man, my nose, he looks huge. So, absolutely on the big TV. Okay, I knew it was you, Melissa. Okay. Well, thanks. Hello, Laura. Puma 17 here in the Texas Panhandle. Okay. Wow. Well, as I always state when we start these live shows, if you are watching, please give this video thumbs up as you're watching. If you can do that, I would appreciate it. Do it now, do it later, do it sometime. For those of you who are watching it in the rerun, the replay, I hope that you will also give this the thumbs up. And if you are not yet a subscriber to the Unfound Podcast Channel, please consider doing so. And then hitting also that little bell button so that when we upload videos, you will get a notice. And so you'll know. But other than that, pretty much business as usual around here. Have already completed Friday's episode. Got it done today. Recorded it. Edited the interview yesterday. So working a little ahead of time. And so you can also expect that. Hello, Delane. You can expect that the episode will be out early on Friday because on Friday I will be driving from Clearwater Beach to North Fort Myers for a disc golf tournament this weekend. I'll be leaving here around 11 a.m., anticipating getting there about 1 p.m., getting in a little practice, playing a little doubles, and then going to my Airbnb, doing some work, probably working on the Patreon blog on Friday evening, and then Saturday, 2 rounds, and then on Sunday, 1 round. But if you don't know already, when I do go on these disc golf weekends, it's either disc golf or work, disc golf or Unfound. That's how it is. Play disc golf, go back to wherever I'm staying, and do Unfound work. Sometimes I've done interviews while on the road. In fact, I did that when I was up in Ocala. That's when I interviewed Caroline Lowe for the Jody Husentrut episode. That's where I was. I've been known to do some map videos on the road. I've a variety of things. Unfound Now. I think I did the Unfound Now for Jason. Was it Jason Landry? No, the one before that on the road. So I get a lot of work done even when I am not here at home in Clearwater Beach. So it's these disc golf getaways are a little bit of a vacation, but not really. But that's nice. It's nice that I can bring all my equipment with me and do work on the road. So there you go. Those are some things that are going on with me. I had a heck of a week last week. Why am I yawning? I have no idea. But on Tuesday, I won doubles, disc golf doubles. And on Wednesday, before last week's show, I won Wednesday doubles at a totally different course with a totally different person. And then on Thursday, I went to trivia with my brother Brian, and we beat like 20 other teams in trivia. So it was quite a week last week. Now this week, yesterday, played doubles over Taylor, did not win, didn't even come close. Today, did not want to drive up there to Oldsmar, just had too many things to do, and so I just stayed here and then went out and threw for about an hour. But I'm still going to trivia tomorrow, so maybe Brian and I can go back to back. I'm hoping. So it was nice. K-Dog, hello, all from Michigan. Cold Michigan. Well, welcome, Kay. So that's about it going on with me. That's about it. So let's get into, maybe I need to do, what we didn't do last week? We didn't do a mystery music song last week, but I have something prepared for this week, a song that I was listening to right before the show started. Okay. So I'm going to give you some hints and we'll get into the show and we'll see if anybody can guess the song. Scientists say you yawn to cool your brain. You must be hot-headed tonight. Oh, I don't know. Is that true, Kim? I've never read that. I know yawns are supposed to be contagious, but I don't feel hot-headed. I don't know. I took a shower. Maybe you can even kind of tell my hair is still a little bit. I have to remind myself that if I'm going to be doing these shows, I have to jump into the shower about an hour and a half before, not an hour. An hour does not give my hair long enough to dry. I think an hour and a half does. But I didn't jump into the shower until 8 o'clock. I was doing some things. I just have to remember that. But I don't know about that, Kim. Hot-headed. Okay. Maureen from Western PA. I've seen you post some, Maureen. Where from Western PA? Are you up in the Butler area where my dad lives? Maybe. We're going to Pittsburgh this Friday for the Unfound episode, Maureen. Kathy says, Delane, I already said hi prematurely. Karen, I recently saw an episode of Dr. Phil where he covered Angela Green's disappearance. Her daughter was his guest. Yeah, I don't know when that was filmed, but yeah, I think I knew about that, Karen. I will be honest that anytime Dr. Phil has ever come up in a conversation with a guest, I usually tell them that I'm not sure it's worth it because he's not in the missing persons business. He's in the sensationalism business. You have to look at all the other kinds of shows he does when he's not covering disappearances. And, I know that people, he's on TV, so I guess somebody's watching him. But the problem is that people watch that show, don't watch it for missing persons cases. So it's just not the right audience. And my fear is that, the people that see it might forget that the person was even on the program and as soon as it's over. So, and I've had some guests on the program who were on Dr. Phil, who were ever on Unfound, and none of them said it was a good experience. So there's that too. But Maureen says yes from Butler. Okay. You've been getting some snow up there too, Maureen, for sure. I know that area, of course, well, because my dad lives in Renfrew. But even before that, I always used to have to go through Butler, going from Leechburg to Grove City way back in the day when I went to college up there. So I know the Butler area very, very well. Delane says, Kathy, my timer snoozed an extra 5 minutes somehow. You must have hit the snooze button, Delane. Don't do that. So I think I knew about that, Karen, but I usually counsel Unfound's guests to usually stay away from that just because I know other guests have not had a very good experience. So let's get into the show. We have to do a little music trivia to see if you can guess the song I was listening to before we started the show. This song is noteworthy because it is my favorite song that is not in English. Okay, so there's a little bit of a hint. And the song came out in the year 2000. And let's see, what other hint can I give? This particular artist has also does a mixture of songs in English and in Spanish. And that's all I'm going to give you for now. But the song, it was very popular. I don't know how popular it was in the United States, but the first time I ever saw the song was when I went on vacation to Mexico in December of 2000. And there was like a Spanish version of MTV. And they were playing this particular song. And I was like, who is this? This is a spectacular song. And it still is. over 20 years later. It's still a spectacular song. I have it saved on my Spotify list, and you'll just have to see if you can guess. It came out sometime during the year 2000, and it's in Spanish, but this particular artist also does songs in English. But you have to guess the song too. All right, let's move into the body of the Unfound Live Show. If you're new to the Unfound Live Show, this is kind of what we do. We mix a mixture of stuff that's going on in my life, stuff that's going on in the listeners' lives, a little pop culture, and then mixed in just some things concerning Unfound and also items that have caught my eye in the news, all mixed together. A little more laid back than the episodes. The episodes, I think, are, dress, suit, and tie. And this is more like business casual. But the Burnley poll that we, of course, every week, I will post a poll trying to challenge all of you to put on your thinking caps and try to decide what occurred in the disappearance that we've covered for that week. And I've been running those polls for a long time now and gave a variety of options. And the most popular choice was that Sky really was set up. He got set up going out there. Travis brought him out there. They go out to the woods, and a person or people were waiting for Sky, and he was taken away. That was the most popular choice. Some of the other choices were that maybe he overdosed the night before, and it was all a way to cover up him overdosing, which is a very popular idea we talk about on the show when we have disappearances like that. Another was that he really just did walk off, as Travis portrayed. And then the other choice was just something else. And some people did pick that, but I don't think anybody gave a specific of how their particular theory would be different than the other three choices. But that got some choices. Nobody, I think, picked that he walked away as Travis described. But the group, just by a little bit, decided that he was set up and disappeared in those woods on Bridges Road. Travis, put that all together. In the think tank, this is one of those weeks where the think tank and the group are kind of the same. I think a majority of people in the think tank also picked. There was some setup going on. Not everybody in the group, but a large majority believed that something happened that was a setup. Some, I think others, thought that it might have been an overdose cover-up. But I will tell you that I guess I'm alone in the group, and I am alone in the think tank, and this is very, very rare. I disagreed with everybody, and I decided that I really believe that Sky did walk off on his own on Bridges Road on that Friday. That's probably going to stun you. And I wrote about that, my reasoning, in the blog. And if you'd like to see my reasoning, it was at patreon.com/unfound podcast. Of course, if you were already a member, maybe you've already read my blog that I finally finished on Monday. I had a few things to do this past week and finally got it done on Monday to see my personal reasoning. And I guess what's maybe odd about that and combining it with in many of the other disappearances that we've covered so far in 2021 is that I think that is now, I don't know, I guess I've become what you might call Mr. I don't know, Mr. Boring. I don't know if that's the right word, but Mr. Non-conspiracy theorist or something like that, because in these kinds of disappearances, of course, we've covered how many? 6 so far. TJ Murray, Patty Dudek, Ben Archer, Noah Davis, Jake Latchley, and Sky Burnley. And in all of those, well, not in Patty Dudek's, I think I agreed with everybody, but maybe in those other ones, especially TJ's, Noah's, Jake's, and Sky's, I decided in all four of those cases, which I see as being very similar, that they all either walked off, or in Jake's case, he really did jump off the bridge. Whereas I think a large majority of you went in another direction. For me, when the concern is just skies, I just start getting very leery when we start talking about people arranging things, planning things beforehand, and it just gets way too complicated. And I start trying to think, does this make any sense when they're trying to get rid of one person when they could have just, in the middle of the night when he was at Travis's, just came and got him, or when he was home with his grandmother, they surely knew where he was. Why not just yank him right off the street? It all seems a little too complicated for me. In addition, as we were talking about in the think tank, that although a couple people did come up with some disappearances and Unfound is covered, although technically they're not technically solved yet. But I put the question to the group, these disappearances that have become solved over the years, and even if they haven't been covered by Unfound, how many of them end up being where you thought it was one thing, and then all these people got caught because they were trying to portray it as something else? And you have a hard time trying to think of a disappearance like that, where people try to make it look like one thing when it was really something else. It's tough to do that. I'm not saying it's never happened, but that you really, really have to think about it. And you maybe have to Google or something to show that maybe there are a few out there. It just shows you how rare they are. So I think that was part of my reasoning too. People usually not too successful when they try to portray a disappearance or a death as something else. But if you'd like to read my reasoning, please go to Unfound Pod or patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. And to read the blogs, all you have to do is sign up at $2 a month. But if you'd like to be a part of or $5 a month, you get some extra books and some things there. Or you can step up to $12 a month and become part of the think tank, or even there's other things as well, up to $20 a month. So, there you go. Sky Burnley poll. A large majority of you think that he really was set up by Travis and others. And I'm going the absolute opposite direction. All right, let's see. Delane says, I just need to put my husband on here for the music trivia. He's a walking musical encyclopedia. Well, you should get him interested, Delane. Concha says, Carlos Santana, Maria. That's all right, Concha. Delane says, Enrique Iglesias hero. Delane compliments Concha on the good guess. And wouldn't you know, one of my assistants would get it right. I'm just wondering if she had a inside line. Maybe I've even mentioned that song to her before. I'm wondering, Cherie. But thank you for posting the link, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Ruth says, Concha Suerta, whenever. That's a good song, but that was kind of later. Concha. I don't speak Spanish, so I really don't listen to Spanish songs except a little Pitbull. Okay, well, all right, Concha. Suerte is a good choice, Concha. Ruth could be Suerte if it was recent. So Hero was released in 2001. Ruth is going to like Wikipedia and stuff to check these dates. Well, all I can tell you is when I first saw the song, and I thought it came out that year, but being that it's already been posted, man, I think from future trivia questions, we're going to have to rule out assistants, because I probably have talked about some of these things before them, and they have like the inside line. It's like knowing the questions on Jeopardy before you're even on the show. That's okay, Cherie. You're excused. You're excused. I have to say that Cherie got it right. And the song is Ojos Así. Now, I guess somebody's saying it came out in 1998. That's news to me. Maybe I know I first heard it in very late 2000. Tammy, unfortunately, I'm giving the answer right away now. Right now, Tammy. But Ojo Sasi was the answer by Shakira. And I can remember this. I remember this like it was yesterday. Cherie says it's her first one. Okay. Congratulations, Cherie. I can remember going on this vacation and the TV in my room only had a couple channels. But they must have played the video to that song 100 times over that week. Seriously. I'm exaggerating, but it felt like that many, but it was a fantastic song. If you've ever seen the video, you know, of course, the way Shakira looks now is not how she looked back then. But I was like, who is this? Why have I never heard of this woman before? This song is fantastic. And it's not, she's singing it in Spanish, but it has a very much a Middle Eastern feel to it. And I remember coming back from that Mexico vacation and telling my brother Brian, who now lives near me here in Florida, I remember telling him, have you ever heard of this singer called Shakira? And he goes, no, never heard of her. And my brother was a truck driver at the time, he knows all sorts of music. He listens to a much wider range of music than I do. Listening to the radio in a truck. I mean, he's 18 years older than I am. And then he said, no, I hadn't. I said, me neither. And that's when I started trying to find out a little bit more about her, about the song. Of course, this is before YouTube. This is when Napster was a thing, going back, 20 years ago. And I remember finding that song on Napster and, putting and burning it. Those were the days, burning it to a CD so I could listen to it in the car. Those were the days, right? Wow, technology has changed so much. And still, I went into 2001. She really wasn't a thing. And then it was weird because she still really had not done anything. And it was the album after that Whenever, Wherever, that now American audiences, whatever the name of that album was, it was called Dirty Laundry or something like that. I forget. But Laundry Service or something like that. And that's when American audiences finally found out who she was. And of course, she's been popular ever since. Of course, did the Super Bowl, I think it was last year. But I can still remember right before she really, really got famous in the United States, I can remember, who was it? Tom Cruise or some huge movie star. They were doing an interview and the reporter asked this movie star, what are you listening to right now? And this person, I think it was I could have swore it was Tom Cruise, says, I'm listening to Shakira. And I was like, that's her. And this was well before, once again, before Whenever, Wherever, whatever that song is, ever came out. It was really weird. It was really weird to know an artist. Of course, she was very popular in Spanish speaking countries. I think she's from Colombia? I think at Colombia. And so she was very popular down there, but nobody in the United States knew who she was. And then I heard her and was like, man, why isn't she known? And then a couple years later, she's just everywhere. And I still don't know, though, if many of her American fans even know about that song. I know she ended up doing the song in English, but the English version isn't just not the same. You have to hear it in Spanish. You don't even care what she's saying. You don't even have to know what she's saying. That's how good that song is. And so there you go. Ojo Sasi. Yeah, and I think the Conscious says it's about eyes or something. Yes, it's like eyes like yours or eyes like that. That's right, Kathy. That's how it's kind of translated to that. Ojo see. Yeah, it's so good. And that's what I was listening to before the show started tonight. So good guess, Cherie. But I think you kind of had the inside line on that, I think, a little bit. But Ruth, the video is on Vivo. That's how old the song is. Music video is good. Yeah, music video is very good. I mean, now these days she has blonde hair and everything. Back then, dark hair. Of course, she's 20 some years younger. So good. Another song that I like by Shakira, although it's not one of her most popular songs, is it's the song she did with Lil Wayne called Give It Up to Me. That's a good tune too. I think that came out in about 2009. I was still in Las Vegas. 2010. No, 2009. That's a good tune too. I like that. I like that tune. Delane says, wow, Napster was awesome back in the day. Yeah, it was just a little bit illegal, but we all took part in it until they took that away. I wonder what that guy's doing now. Yes, Columbia, thank you. Eileen and Screaming. You're right, I was wrong. Columbia is how it is spelled with the no, Columbia is spelled with an O, 2 O's. District of Columbia in the United States, or Columbia River in Washington, is with a U, but the country of Colombia is spelled with 2 O's. Yeah. Elizabeth says, oh my God, Napster, I feel old. Yeah. I remember those days. Can you remember those? Anybody, you'd look for a song and you'd see it downloading and the little line would be going up and up and up and up and downloading to your computer. And all of us were thinking, why did we ever pay for music ever? And unfortunately, though, on the other hand, I think it's, Napster, although it was great and you got, of course, it ended up, of course, being illegal and everything, but it really started, I think, the kind of a downward trend in the music industry. I sound like a old fuddy-duddy here, but the pop stars of today, of 2020, 2021, to me, they can't touch the music stars of yesteryear. Like when I was growing up, 70s and 80s, Michael Jackson, Madonna, Prince, the Police, who, any in that, which once again, you might call pop music. There's just something about music and how the industry has changed over the last 20 years. And I think it unfortunately kind of started with Napster, that I think people started taking, it seems like music that is created today is a little more throwaway than it used to be. I think people used to be more invested in it because you had to pay to get CDs or get lucky enough to listen to your songs you like on the radio. It's just a lot different today. Just my opinion. Hope I'm not sounding like an old angry guy. Okay. On the topic, though, that I just mentioned, it is amazing to me, moving on, kind of topic 1.5. It is amazing to me, the episodes that we've had so far in, this is kind of going to change this Friday, but so far, TJ Murray, Patty Dudek, Ben Archer, Noah Davis, Jake Latchley, Sky Burnley. Now, we all come to our own conclusions, our own theories, but it is amazing with these cases, that there are a variety of choices. There's no real clear-cut, obvious, very, very obvious theory. Patty Dudek's, maybe think Dwight, or maybe the guy that she was getting drugs with, maybe somebody else. Kind of few choices there. Ben Archer, I guess you're down to just 2 choices. He walked away, or he unfortunately went into the river, but at least you have a couple choices. These other ones, TJ, Noah, Jake, Sky, a variety of choices. Not that they're all equal or anything, but certainly more than 1 choice, more than 2, maybe even more than 3. And like I said, though, that's going to change this Friday when we have a covered Disappearance that unfortunately is probably a little too straightforward. And I say that sadly, but we'll talk about that later in the program, as we always do. Delane says Metallica threw such a fit over those free downloads and lost some fans. Lars wasn't happy. Yeah, I remember that. I remember them throwing fits and everything else. And the truth is, it was decided that it was illegal. And, I don't think we should expect all these people to work for free and everything else. So I'm not saying I was necessarily on their side at the time, but in retrospect, I think they were kind of right. Eileen, or stand outside of Tower Records all night just to try and get a new release there. Yeah. Yep. I don't know if I ever did that, Eileen, but certainly true. Certainly true. My parents, they didn't allow me to buy any albums or anything like that. I think that's why I'm such a, at 50, that's why I'm such a crazy person now when it comes to the music I listen to and all these shirts and everything. I wasn't allowed to have any of this stuff when I lived under my parents' roof, going back to the 1980s in high school, etc. No way. That was Satan's music. They about died when I ended up, once I went to college, I ended up getting Ozzy Osbourne's, what was the name? The album, was it called No More Tears? The album with No More Tears on it. They about died when I bought that CD, Ozzy Osbourne CD with No More Tears on it. I don't even particularly care for that album now. In fact, that's the only song on it that's any good. But you would have thought they thought I became a Satanist. That's a true story. And then what's funny is, like 10 years or 15 years later, my mom and dad were watching Ozzy Osbourne's reality show, whatever channel that was on. You can just never know what these things that are going to happen. You can just never know. They're giving me a hard time when I'm 20 getting an Ozzy Osbourne album. 15 years later, they're watching Ozzy's TV show. So, let's move on to this. Of course, this past Monday, for the first time in quite a while, I released a special episode on a Monday that was kind of more common thing, like way, way, way back in the day. But due to myself and John interviewing Kent Landry, Jason Landry's father, John released his episode of our interview with Kent, not this past Friday, but the Friday before. I can't even keep my date straight. I guess that would have been 19th, 12th, 5th, February 5th. And then I gave it a week and some days. And then I released that same show, but just in audio form this past Monday, released just like episode got to Podomatic, and then it went out to Spotify, iTunes, everywhere else. And of course, it's on, I think that Natasha has completed putting video to that, or at least pictures to that, and putting it on YouTube, I think. That's fine. If she hasn't gotten to it yet, that's fine too. It'll eventually be there. But it gave me a chance to air a theory that I've come up with, maybe a little novel. Maybe it's only something that I could have cooked up. But I believe this disc golf analogy that I talked about in my summation, I think it's a worthy one. Compared, searching for disc golf discs when they go missing, and then searching for people when they go missing, when you have a circumstance like Jason's, where it's obvious that he was in the area. It's obvious that he walked away. There's a very, very, very slim chance that anybody could have picked him up. And then we start thinking of other disappearances like Brian Lawson, Mar Murray, Brandon Swanson. Brandon Swanson. And you start to wonder, well, surely not in all of these disappearances could all of these people gotten picked up by the wrong person and something happened. You got to believe in these ones, once again, these ones that are well known, and there are many disappearances like them, that they all couldn't have gotten picked up by bad people. So the only other alternative is that they really did walk away. So the next question is, why were they never found? And as I went through the analogy, I'm not going to go through it all over again because I took some time to get the wording just right. You can do that when you don't do things live. I think there's something to that. I think that knowing where a person went missing, knowing where a car, for example, wrecked and not seeing anything around, obviously is a help. You can say, yes, this is where it happened. But if you do not find that missing person, whether alive or deceased, very quickly, then it gets very difficult because, once again, two very logical arguments butt up against each other. But I like doing these things, and I like coming up with theories like this. I think it's helpful. I think that, I think that's one of the roles that I try to play. As I continue to say since day one, I've always had the attitude that Unfound, although it's about awareness and trying to move these disappearances along, I want all of you to learn something at the same time. Not just about that particular unique disappearance that happened wherever, whenever, to bring back Shakira, but something about the theory overall. Why do they happen? Why are people not found? Why is it difficult to bring some of these cases to trial when there's no body, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I see myself in that role as well. And I would, in a way, I even have this written in my notes. If you ever see me looking to my left, your right, I'm over looking at my notes, which are on my other laptop. All of you follow true crime very closely. You follow missing persons cases very closely. You devote your free time, of course, to watching this live show, and I thank all of you. You spend time listening to the Unfound episodes, which are not short sometimes, 2 hours plus usually. And you do your own research. You get on, you go to a variety of places looking for facts. You go to web sleuths, wherever else. You put, because you're interested in that you put a lot of time doing that. But we have to remember that there are millions and millions of people who don't do that at all. But these disappearances should still be important to them because you never know when they are going to be the next victim, or they are going to be a loved one who has a person go missing, in a family. So I have in my notes here, in a way, trying to put these disappearances and the theories in words that people who don't follow true crime understand. It's kind of like, once again, I have it written in my notes, like when Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time book came out in the 1980s. Since it came out in the 1980s, 30 some years ago, it has sold 25 million copies. 25 million. Now, not just in English, but in a variety of languages. Now, I'm telling you, there are not 25 million people in the world who take an interest, that deep of an interest, in physics and general relativity and quantum theory. Most people, they hear about it. They know who Albert Einstein is. They know E equals MC squared, and that's about it. It's just not their concern. Most of us have no reason to worry about quantum theory and gravity and everything else, unless, we're at the top of a building not trying to fall off. But because Stephen Hawking was able to put these very complex ideas into words that people understood, that's why that book sold so many millions of copies, because he found a way to make the very complex understandable. All right. He figured that out. And because of it, now 30 some years later, there are more people who do kind of understand, black holes and the speed of light, and why we can't travel faster than the speed of light, and gravity, a lot more than probably people did before that, because he figured out a way to relate to the common person who would never take an interest in these things and say, you know what, here's what it is. You should take an interest in it. And here it's written in words that you can understand, of course, with diagrams, pictures, everything else. That's why that book sold 25 million copies. And it's brilliant. And I have that book, by the way. Haven't read it maybe since the 1980s, but it was excellent. I can remember reading it. Excellent, excellent book. So I think that any of us, not just myself, anybody who covers these disappearances kind of has the same responsibility, that we have to remember, even though we have large audiences, the audience is very small compared to the general population. Even though true crime as a genre is somewhat popular, but it's certainly not as popular, for example, as other parts of our culture. But these disappearances are important because people have been harmed. Many, many people have been injured emotionally because of this. Families have been split up. People's lives have been ruined, everything else. And so it's our role to explain disappearances, to try to explain them to people outside of the group who is watching here tonight. And one of the ways we can do that is putting these disappearances in terms that people who don't follow this at all can understand. And that's been on my mind for a very long time. It's not just enough to report on these disappearances, interview mothers and fathers, and make headway in these cases. Another item all true crime hosts should be putting on their lists is trying to affect the general population and make them understand these things too. Let's see what some people were saying here. Going back, Delane says, I can't live without Spotify now. Me neither. I stood outside a record store at midnight for Pearl Jam's second album. Well, that was that Versus, Melissa? 10 is spectacular. I didn't listen to anything after that. Elizabeth says, my parents thought Ozzy Osbourne worshiped the devil. Yep, I know that. Delane, the clothes in the road is really bewildering. Jason Landry, they picked up the backpack and hat where the clothes put there afterwards. I don't think anybody knows Delane. Yeah, Jason Landry's. Delane, I think he may have gotten a head injury. I think that's very possible. As we talked about, Delane kind of made me wonder if he was hiding nearby when the car was discovered, and once it was removed, he came out and then stripped his clothing. That would be certainly a unique turn of events, Delane. Delane's, how did they just ignore these items? Well, we just don't know, Delane. We don't know the sequence of events. It's just something that I brought up during the interview that I thought that Kent should look into. Yeah, Versus. Yeah. Okay. So, it was a special episode. I want to thank John again for asking me to take part. Little did I know back when I did that Unfound Now at the beginning of January that it would turn into what it became. A lot more than I could have ever anticipated. I was happy to do it back in January. I was happy to take part in the interview the beginning of this month. What was it, February 2nd, Groundhog Day that we did that. So I'm guessing that, of course, they just Jason's family is just not going to let things sit. I anticipate we'll see some more action in that area at some point in 2021 once the weather maybe clears up or something and it doesn't snow in Texas anymore. I'm going to believe that's going to happen. Though they're going to go out there again. That's just a guess of mine, a theory. That would make a lot of sense. And wait, kind of course, when he disappeared back in December, cold, maybe let the weather break a little bit, maybe in March, April, I don't know. But this is surely not the last time that we will see people in the Luling, Texas area go out there looking for Jason. Of course, we're all hoping that he's not there. We're hoping that he's alive somewhere, and it's just some weird amnesia, fugue state, something like that has affected him, and it will all come together in the end, and he will be alive. And this is just some very, 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 very unique circumstance. But until that happens, the focus, of course, is still going to be around the Luling, Texas. I got that wrong on the Unfound Now episode. Not Luling, Texas. But I stick by what I said at the end of that special episode, is that these searches should be organized not based on terrain or anything else. At some point, if I had more time, somebody has to start putting a database together of disappearances like this. Car crashes where people seem to have walked off, and for those ones where the drivers are found, whether dead or alive, what are those circumstances? Why were they found a mile away or 10 miles away or 15 miles away? Or if they were found alive, how is it that they end up being found alive? That kind of data is going to be more helpful than just looking at a map and saying, okay, we go here. Well, you wouldn't, because then people start making logical leaps that aren't very logical. So we just can't rely on being that we have the way to accumulate all this data. They should use it. And as I said in the episode, the tough part is that there have been some disappearances, Tom Brown being one, and I'm sure there's many others, where a person's car is here and the remains are found 12 miles away, and it's a little hard to explain. Of course, people have their own different views on Tom Brown's disappearance, but his is not the only one where that has happened. And that surely complicates any search for any person. But it still should be used as a data point if you're going to accumulate some spreadsheet, a database with these types of disappearances. And that can help you to try to figure out, well, what most likely can we expect, and what should we do in this particular disappearance? Just an idea. Let's go to a question. I only got a couple questions for tonight's show. I did my best, but I just have a couple of them. Kim, who I know is in here. Do you have any collaborations in the works that you haven't revealed to us yet? Any new horizons for Unfound in 2021? I can be very honest with you that there are no any other plans for collaborations at this time, Kim. But that I don't think that means much, because John and I getting together, in my opinion, it happened fairly quickly. So I'm sitting here on February 17th telling you there's nothing. It very well could be by Saturday that has changed. But nothing as I sit here doing this live show tonight. As far as any new horizons for Unfound in 2021, I continue to say that I'm hoping we can get into some schools before this year's over. I hope that I can go and speak to some classes in person. That would, I think, be a huge step forward. And that goes back to what I was saying before about educating people about disappearances. So I'd surely like to make that happen. That was supposed to happen last year. COVID got in the way. Let's see what some. Verses. A little bit. I don't know. The slow is driving me. Just a little bit. What's going on? A little bit. Do they think foul play? Dawn asks regarding Jason Landry. You heard, if you listened to the special episode or watch the video that I did with John, I think that Jason's family is open-minded. I don't think they've closed their minds to any possibility. Foul play or anything else, deceased or alive. I think their minds continue to be very, very wide open. I think there's no signs of foul play. And I think what I would say is I think what we know points more to the idea that he walked off in contrast to foul play. But until this disappearance is solved, I just don't know. So they're keeping, I think, their options open, and all they can do, it's just part of the process of making good decisions on what they need to do next. Lily says, sending sunshine from down under. That's right. Right now in Australia, it's summer. Southern Hemisphere, it's summer down there. And it was 71 degrees here, Lily. So I'm going to take any sunshine that you sent to Florida, Lily. I'm just going to, north is that way. I'm just going to try to push that sunshine that way to Lily, to up all those people in Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, etc. Delane, hopefully they'll test the marijuana for anything. It may have been laced with unknown to Jason. That seems like a good idea, Delane. Little Bit says, I had to go to the Dallas-Fort Worth area yesterday to take my new grandson some firewood. Wow. Tammy asked, who is your celebrity crush? I'm going to answer that in a moment, Tammy. A little bit, working on my grandson's baby blanket and trying not to be in pain, Mr. Edward. Wow. Okay, Lou. Yeah, we don't want you to be in pain either, a little bit. Sorry. Yeah. Send it to me. I'll send the sunshine. There you go, Lily. Send the sunshine to a little bit. So Kim, that's my answer to that. And I'm hoping also, Kim, as you know, I've talked about a couple of things in the think tank. I'm hoping sometime during 2021. In fact, I have to put that on my list of things to do, that some of you in the think tank specifically, can work with us on doing some research on some disappearance that we've talked about behind the scenes. And I think you know what I'm talking about, Kim. So there you go. Let's move on to this. I have to inform all of you, I think many of you know this anyway, because it was posted in the group and elsewhere, that the remains that were found near Robbie Hurt's truck near Danville, North Carolina, or Danville, Virginia, on the border of Virginia and North Carolina, those ended up being Robbie's, very unfortunately. And the remains were found by a road worker. Once again, we have a situation where searches were done at the time. Nothing was found. And then I have to look up. I know Robbie's disappearance is not old. Unfortunately, I'm being tested with my memory here, but he disappeared. I know it's right here. I know it was the first. There he is. He disappeared in 2018. And his remains were found a little over 2 years after he disappeared. And they are his. Now, the way I understand the map that his mother, Becky, sent to me is that, and I think I explained this maybe last week before we absolutely knew that they were Robbie's remains, is that the dogs, they took them to the truck. The dogs went toward a gas station. Well, you should know Robbie's remains were found in the exact opposite direction. So did he walk one way and then go the other way? Maybe. But the dogs only went one direction. They didn't go back the other direction. And I continue to have doubts about, and I know we have dog handlers out there who watch this program, and they're all probably ticked off at me for saying this, but the only thing that counts are results. And I hold my own program to the same standard. And we all have a very difficult job. All of you out there, searchers, have a difficult job. I have a difficult job. Anybody who makes disappearances a concern has a very difficult job, because these are the toughest of the toughest of the toughest mysteries that exist. Period. But in the end, it's the only thing that matters are results. And I try to remind myself of that. I just don't want I realized that myself, my assistants, the program get a lot of thanks for what we do. And I don't think any of that goes to our heads because we realize in the end, it's all about results. So if I hold a brush or something around a road sign or something, and that's how his remains were found. And so that would be example, speaking just before about Jason Landry. That's a disappearance kind of like Jason's that should go into some database of all these disappearances that were solved and applied to all these ones that had those people not been there. Then there would have been, he would still be missing. It's buffering. I see that it's doing that. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it has something to do with the snow. We were doing good for an hour here, I guess. Kim says, thanks for the answers, Ed. Hope you get to the schools this year. I do too. If you're having buffering problems, sorry about that. Totally probably out of my control. Let's move on to this. I need to give a shout out to Marky Davis. If you will remember, going way back to early 2018, she was the guest for the Jeremy Burt episode, which was like a two-parter. First, we did Aaron Barnard and Jeremy Burt. I continue to believe that those two disappearances are still connected to each other somehow, but Marky was the guest for Jeremy Burt's. And it was a pleasure just by accident running into her online. I was doing some outreach to some pages about showing some interest in covering disappearances. And here she was the one who was running one of those pages. So I hadn't talked to her in a while. And so I needed to give a shout out to her, Marky Davis, Marki Davis, and her group, We Help the Missing. I'm sure many of you are members on that page or that group. And I think that Marky's going to be helping us with some disappearances this year. She'd sent myself and Emily a list of people she knows, families she knows, disappearances that she knows quite a bit about. And Emily and I are going through that list right now. So I want to give a shout out to Marky Davis once again at We Help the Missing. If you're not yet, if you're not following that page yet, I hope you will do so. And it may be a group too, but they may have members. So I hope that you will take an interest in that. They are doing very good work, and they've been doing their work long before Unfound existed. So once again, Marky Davis, I don't know if she watches the live show or not or anything. She doesn't have to, but a huge shout out to her. And I thank her for everything that she's done for the program. I know she has been a great supporter of the program, has said very nice things about Unfound. A little bit, the group, I don't know if it's a page or a group a little bit, but if you do a search on Facebook for We Help the Missing, you will surely find it. And Marky is in the discussion group like I know you are a little bit. And I certainly thank her for wanting to assist us in reaching out to even more families in 2021. Thank you for that. All right, Tammy, you asked me, who is my celebrity crush? Everybody who knows anything about me knows who my celebrity crush is. And it has been a celebrity crush for a very long time. It hasn't changed. And it's one of those things where I think that I was just the right age when this all happened. Yes, Delane. It's Bo Derek. And it's been Bo Derek for probably almost probably 40 years. I don't know. There was just something. And, I think 10, of course, she did some very poor movies. But, with her husband, John Derek, who was very, very way older, and they got married when she was 17, and that was a scandal and everything else. But She ended up doing 10 with Dudley Moore, which was a huge hit, and her running on the beach with the cornrow hair and everything, with the beads, iconic shot in film history. The director was Blake Edwards. And I think, so I was 9, 10, 11, and maybe just kind of starting to realize, about the opposite sex and all of that. And I think it just left an impression with me. And it has just continued all these years later, 40 years later. I don't know. I follow her on Instagram. She doesn't post much, but yes, my celebrity crush for the last 40 years has not. I mean, I may make some jokes here and there, maybe on Facebook, although it's been a while, like Jennifer Aniston. Really, I try to stick around women like around my own age. And of course, Bo Derek is like, I think she's 14 years older than I know, maybe 11 years older than I am, something like that. 12 years older. So she's in her early 60s and she still looks fantastic. I'm sure she's had some work done and everything. She still looks incredible. I've watched interviews with her. She seems a very nice person. And then there are some other celebrity crushes that I've had over the years. I can't think of what some of the, but through all of it, Bo Derek has always been number one and will always be number one. Adrienne Barbeau is another one. Once again, going back to the early 80s, The Fog, Escape from New York, Swamp Thing. Always liked her a lot too, but number one has always been Bo Derek, so there you go. And the funny thing is, way back in the day, I don't know, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I actually had a conversation with her on Twitter. Thrill of my life. True story. I was at the Tampa airport. I'm guessing I was flying back to Pennsylvania. Like I said, since I moved to Florida, but before I started Unfound. So once again, 2014, 2015 or something. And I was sitting there in the Southwest Airlines section. And I saw this woman out of the corner of my eye, in line to get on a plane, just a glimpse like that. And I was like, was that Bo Derek? And I thought about it. And I tagged her in a post on the account I had on Twitter at the time. And I said, Bo Derek, I'm here at the Tampa airport. Was that you that just got on that plane? She got back to me within minutes and said, no, I'm not in Tampa at that time, as like a lookalike. I said, yeah. She goes, no, it wasn't me. All right, just checking. You look great, by the way, and everything. I actually had this back and forth conversation with the thrill of my life. Never expected her to ever reply, and she did. It was crazy. But that's what you can do on social media these days. You can, you can contact people you admire and follow and have crushes on, and sometimes they'll get back to you. Of course, a lot of times, celebrities stay away from that stuff because all it is trolling and criticism and everything else. But nobody was more amazed that she got back to me than I was. So I've actually had a conversation with Bo Derek through Twitter. So let's say Delane guessed right. And I've even made, once again, maybe if anybody follows my private page on Facebook, they know that once in a while I will make some Bo Derek jokes. Of course, not in a derogatory way, but in a very positive way. Kim says, Bo definitely was a 10. Couldn't find a thing wrong with her. And Lily says, exquisite taste. I know she's done a lot of horrible movies. I know that you really have to question her being married to John Derek and him being way older and her being underage. I get all of that. She has certainly done some movies that you could say are harder than R. Some NC-17 stuff, you could say, in a way, and not porn, but closer to porn, and it's closer to porn than it is to PG. But anytime I've ever seen any interviews with her, going way back to Johnny Carson, and even more recently, she's really into horses. She's into helping veterans and all that. She's spectacular, just spectacular. So I that's my celebrity crush, but it's just not a lustful crush. I also respect her. All right, let's move on to this. Next Monday, Dr. Telesco and I will be getting together again. Can't wait. 7 p.m. Eastern on the Fischler College of Education and School of Criminal Justice. I wrote it down this time. Their YouTube channel, just like all of the others have been. 7 p.m. Eastern on their channel, Monday. So that's February 22nd. And Dr. Telesco has picked out the disappearance of Joshua Guimond. That is the one that we will be talking about on Monday evening. And I will be sure to post that link in the group for anybody who has not listened to it yet. It's a two-parter. It was, the interview was done, not the first interview, but certainly within the first 5 interviews I ever did for Unfound, was this one with Patrick Marker, who runs a blog called Behind the Pine Curtain. And it has to do with all of the sexual abuse allegations that have been attached to St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota. He was the guest. And in fact, he talked about his own abuse at the hands of one of the priests at that school. But he runs this blog to this day. And because of Joshua disappearing on that campus, he's also become an expert in Joshua's disappearance. And I know that he corresponds with Josh's family. There's also, I think, a Joshua Guimond website. So before Monday rolls around, I will be linking to Josh's 2-part episode so all of you can listen to it again if you haven't listened to it yet, or it's been a while. It's even been a while for me. That was like September, October 2016. And then I will be sending a notice to Patrick Marker, who I haven't spoken to in a very, very long time, and also to their website to let them know what will be going on. If you forget the circumstances of his disappearance, he was at college at St. John's. Once again, not St. John's, the university. What is it? New York City? Philadelphia? I knew they were in the Big East for basketball. But this is St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota. He was hanging out with friends, and around 11 o'clock that night, he got up, left. Couple differing accounts. Did they think he was going to the bathroom, or did they think that he just felt like going back to his dorm? He walked out of that dorm room and was never seen again. And because of everything that has gone on in that campus, there were allegations that some of the professors or administration there did something to Josh, because he was at the time doing a report looking into all of this regarding St. John's University. Did somebody want to take care of him, do something to him because he was doing this? It turned out that what they discovered after the fact, that somebody had accessed Josh's computer after he disappeared, and it was discovered that somebody was trying to delete. It seems Josh and some other of his friends were printing out fake IDs so they could go to bars and things, maybe just not for themselves, but for other people. And some people tried to delete files of that. Could that have something to do with this disappearance? I've always believed that his disappearance didn't have anything to do with what was going on campus, but I am open to other theories. Jody, hello. Hi, back to you. Hi, Jody. What's up? So that will be this Monday. Dr. Telesco picked that one out, that disappearance out. I think I'd given her a list of 10. Once again, she gives me criteria, kind of looks at them and decides, what she thinks that, her own experiences, can add to the conversation. And this is the one that she picked out. I want to remind everybody as you're watching, please do not forget to hit the like button. Give this video a thumbs up as you are watching. I mentioned that early on, but I thought I might mention that one more time. So that show, as always, will be live with Dr. Telesco. I'm going to have to do a little studying before Monday. I'll make my notes, and so I'll be prepared for Monday. I will probably going to listen to that episode again, probably driving down to North Fort Myers on Friday. And maybe, depending how long, I know it's a long one, I'll probably listen to part of it on the way down and then maybe the rest on the way back on Sunday, just to kind of get the wheels spinning again. All right, also on Monday, but this is for a much smaller group of people, at 8:45 p.m., so it's 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be on from 7 to 8. And then 45 minutes after that, my assistant, Dr. Eric Grabowski, will be holding in session, holding the next session of Unfound on the Ground. For all of you premium Patreon members, you know who you are. It's basically everybody who's eligible for the think tank. You are also eligible for Unfound on the Ground. Be looking for an email from him. A link from Dr. Eric Grabowski. It'll be giving you a link and you'll be able to sign up. Remember, you have to sign up every time. It will be done through Zoom. You do not have to use your camera for Zoom. The audio is perfectly fine. So you don't have to take a shower, do anything else before. You can simply do audio, and that's perfectly fine. But you don't have to talk during these sessions, but Eric does ask questions to the group. So if you're going to be tuning in for your first one on Monday, be prepared for that, and I hope you will take part in the discussion. My understanding is he will be covering part 2 of his presentation on geography and mapping for missing persons cases, which seems appropriate given that I just did this discussion in theory on searching for missing people out there in the wilderness, in the desert, on any type of terrain, etc., and why many of those searches fail. So I think that all kind of works together between the special episode of Jason Landry and what Dr. Eric Grabowski will be doing this coming Monday. So for all of you premium Patreon members, $12 a month and above, you're eligible. So please take advantage of it. What do we got going on here? Hello, Suzanne. Always love your lives with Dr. Grace. Me too. Me too, Suzanne. Jody says, nothing much going on here from California. Well, Jody, it's probably, I don't know where you're in California, but you certainly can't be going through what they're going through in Texas right now. Kathy, Jody, you're in Northern Cal. There you go. Central California. Okay, Jody, thank you for answering Kathy's question. So we got Monday, a big day for Unfound. Dr. Grace Telesco discussion, and then later, Unfound on the Ground. Going to be a busy night for me. Of course, with the Unfound on the Ground, I'm just listening. I really don't take part. I just listen to it to see what's going on, to see how many people tune in, see some of the discussion, hear what everybody is saying. That's I'm just kind of overseeing it. What do I want to talk about next? Let's go here. Man, my nose is itchy. Also this past weekend when was it? Was it Saturday or Sunday? I released another Unfound Now regarding the disappearance of Ilea Scheible from my former town of Las Vegas. She ran away back in December. And I think that my perception is that her disappearance has got a decent amount of coverage since this happened. In fact, I know that her father did an interview with Jason Eber on YouTube back at the beginning of January. And in fact, I mentioned that in the Unfound Now segment. And I was motivated to cover her disappearance as an Unfound Now because her mother contacted me and had asked me if I would do that. could the program do something, get the word out about her disappearance? And she'd sent me that message back in January sometime. And as you know, in Messenger, if you're not friends with somebody, you don't get a notice that you have a message. And then I stumbled across her message and I was like, oh, I got to respond. And I think it all in the end, I think it all worked out that I was able to do the Unfound Now for Aleah's family. These kind of disappearances are tough to cover. This is one of the reasons that, at least for the episodes that come out every Friday, that many times we shy away from disappearances of course, very, very young people, like 12 and under. And then when you get to that teenager age of like 13 to 17, it is surely on a case-by-case basis, because it sometimes is very difficult to tell what's going on, especially if you start getting an idea that the parents could have had something to do with the disappearance, even if it's a 14-year-old, 15-year-old teenager. And Aleah's, I felt okay in doing this Unfound Now because I believe her family. I believe that she was seen on this video. Surely the police have seen it, showing her getting up very early on that morning, running off by herself, backpack, as they said, it seemed very packed, and running off. And, in the interview that her father did in early January, because I watched it, there was certainly the hope that, and of course that wasn't even beginning of January was not even a month since her disappearance. I think the hope at the time was that she was holed up with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's in northern Nevada, and that he was hiding her and she's staying with him, and at some point, they're going to, make a mistake or something, or she's going to want to come back home. And I think when he did that interview, I do not think that that was a crazy theory. Certainly not. But now that we're over 2 months into her disappearance, I think that theory has become very, very much less viable. It just stretches my imagination that they could keep this up that long, especially with so many eyeballs on them. Not to mention, the boyfriend surely has friends, and would they be able to keep all their mouths shut? Does he have a roommate in northern Nevada? What about his family? On and on and on. At 2 months, it starts to become very questionable. And that's why when I was going through, I do these Unfound Nows, not just because to raise awareness about a particular very recent disappearance, as I've done all of these going back to the first one, very recent disappearances, and that's the way they'll always be. But not just raising awareness, but going back to the theory of missing persons, why these kinds of disappearances are hard to cover, what you should look for when you see any disappearances or read about them that are similar to any of these that we've covered. And with Aleah's, as has been mentioned, she ran away before, maybe not for days, but she always had it in her mind that she wanted to get away from her family. And she was always found, and she came back home. So in my mind, those are just dry runs to test how difficult is this going to be. And when people do things like that, not just young people, but adults who do things that are risky or illegal or anything, and if they get away with them per se, they're bound to do them again. And so that was one point I pointed out. One point I pointed out in the Unfound Now. Number 2, disappearances are not always about the present, as we always get so caught up in who was the last text to, what was the social media information, on and on and on. We also have to remember that the motivation for a disappearance, whether it is a running away or foul play, could have been a long time coming. We have to remember that. And this is always a good possibility when you have disappearances, whether with young people or adults, when you start hearing about PTSD, a bipolar condition, that these are usually conditions that these people have had for a long time. Even with a teenager, could have it for years. And I'm more inclined to believe that her disappearance has more to do with that than necessarily having anything to do with her boyfriend. I think in those first couple weeks, I think that would make a lot of sense. Oh, she went to be with her boyfriend. But now 2 months in, I think you have to start looking at other reasons and other motivations for her running away. I did note in the Unfound Now that her mother sent me a message saying that allegedly Aleah was in contact with her biological family. She was adopted, but at some point recently, she contacted through a fake profile her biological family. I told her mother to be very, very wary of that. She seems to think that it really was Aleah, but without reading those messages, which I have not, she'd not send them to me, and she doesn't have to do that. That's not a criticism. But without reading them myself, I'm going to be very, very wary of them, because we all know how good scamsters can be, how good con artists can be pretending to be missing people or pretending to have missing people. Just send me $5,000 and you'll get your daughter back. And then number 3, as I pointed out, the final third point, I'm just general points. You can go into depth. If you want to see me go into depth regarding these, please watch that Unfound Now episode from a few days ago. It's up on this channel you're watching right now. Police do not exist to just solve mysteries. Right now, Aleah's disappearance is a mystery. The only real crime that she has committed is that she's not going to school. And that can make it very difficult on the police, because there's a lot of teenagers that don't want to go to school, and some of them don't. And even in these days with COVID and remote learning and everything, it's even more so. So I can understand the Scheibels being very upset maybe on what the police are doing. We have experience covering disappearances in Las Vegas. For example, with Metro closing Chris Turner's disappearance way before it should have been, saying he was still alive, and we now know that he was deceased, and they had his remains. It just hadn't been identified yet. Here they're saying he's still alive, and they have his remains, or they at least found them, and they were buried properly, even though they were not identified until last year. So we know that Metro makes mistakes, but mistakes are made in police departments all over the United States. So I just don't know what else the police can do at this point. If it was the boyfriend that she ran to, I think that it would have just, I think this would have been solved a while ago, not necessarily by the police. So there must be something else that was going on here. I talked about sex trafficking. There's nothing that I heard or read in any of the details that makes me believe that this was sex trafficking. It does seem, though, that she wanted to fly somewhere because she was trying to get a friend to drive her to the airport a few days before she went missing. So if you want to hear my total dissertation on Aleah's disappearance and the theories behind it, some of the points that people should remember when they hear a disappearance like Aleah's, please check out the Unfound Now that got posted a few days ago. Let's see what everybody's talking about here. Central Upstate New York. Hello, Linda. Good to see you. Kim says, I need an appointment book for all the Unfound events. We love to keep you all busy. Where I have to be honest, we're trying to monopolize your time, Kim, so you don't have any time to watch or listen to any other true crime programs out there. We're trying to monopolize your time. Please, yes. Screamy says, please hit the thumbs up. Thank you. St. Paul was minus 18 here the other day. Dang. Thank you, Suzanne. Cherie says, I honestly don't know how you people do cold regularly. It's been 3 days and I'm losing it. I agree, Cherie. Thick blood needed for the cold. Suzanne. Yep. Southern Mississippi. Yesterday was 2 degrees. Oh my gosh. Kathy says, Cherie, this is I would never return to my home state, Idaho. Kim says, thank God for modern technology or we would all be going nuts now. Record-breaking blizzards. Suzanne is praying that Aleah is somewhere safe. Me too. I mean, there's nothing than anything that I've seen to believe that she's deceased, Suzanne. I happen to believe that she's very much alive. It just has to be found. But I think this was planned. And even when a 17-year-old is planning her own disappearance, very quickly everybody gets behind. And so she's had this planned out, I'm guessing, for a while. And she's going through that plan. Lily says, spare a thought for Williams and Osaka playing semis in Australian Open at 85 degrees. Yeah, that Australian Open can get hot. Linda says, you're actually the only podcast I listen to. Well, Linda, I'm glad we meet your standards. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Next question. Delane asked me, Delane's in here. For us Armchair Unfound members, which paid subscription services do you and your assistants find most beneficial as a resource for additional information when researching cases? Delane, I will tell you that for anybody, if you go to theunfoundpodcast.com and if you go up kind of to the right of center where you can click on a few things, there is a plus sign beside the episode word. And if you click on that, if you scroll down to gems, data gems, you click on that, you will see all of the links that we use. That's a list that has been put together by Natasha and Eric. That's why that exists. I know that it's an announcement. It's actually marked as an announcement in the discussion group, so it never goes away. So I think if you go there, Delane, you could find a lot of the links that we've used, I've used, assistants have used to gain information. But if I really, really, really needed to narrow it down to just a couple, I would say that anybody who wanted to learn more about research and putting together, gathering information and making it orderly on your own computer. Delane says, data gems, that list is pretty extensive, but I'm not rich. Of course. That's why I'm going to narrow it down to two sites, Delane. The one that I pay for that I will tell you about is whitepages.com. I think another one that other people use is People Finder. I think that's what it's called. That's also a paid subscription. But the one I use is White Pages because it's really good with linking people to relatives, to addresses, etc. Pretty well. No database is ever going to be 100% accurate. That's something you just have to understand right away. That's one. And I would say newspapers.com. Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to have newspapers.com. That's what I would narrow it down. Those are the two that I pay for a couple other ones, but if I just had to narrow it down to two, those two are good. A free one that I think I find use for once in a while also is ussearch.com. It's free, a little more generalized, but it's also a good way of finding relatives of missing people. It's also good if you're trying to find certain person to talk to, narrowing down who that person is, especially if they have a very common name. So that's what I would say. Whitepages.com, newspapers.com are the paid ones. A decent free one is ussearch.com. Linda says, thank you for covering Craig Freer. Thank you, Linda. Man, that goes back. Coming up here, I guess in June, it will be 4 years since we covered his disappearance. More recently, I did a map video for his disappearance. That is a stumper. There's no doubt about it. A lot of people suspicious of his father. A lot of people suspicious of this phone call that he got, but I've heard the woman who held that party says that didn't happen. A lot of conflicting stories out there. It seems like some people have tried to infuse themselves into his disappearance. But I'm open to ideas. But I think it's maybe one of those, if it's ever solved, it's going to surprise everybody. Once again, Kathy says Craig Freer is one of her pet cases, one she's always followed, very interested in. Carrie says, I personally use mostly free sites. You can Google most courts and get case info. Yeah. You're welcome, Delane. So what do we got? We got about 24 minutes left. Going to try to limit this to 2 hours. Just a couple news items. There's this, I know my assistants are following it. I know Carrie, I think, and Cherie are following it, but there is a nobody murder case that's going on. The disappearance of Victoria Prokapovic. That is a name. Her husband, James, is on trial for her murder. Of course, he said that she just walked off. This is a disappearance very much like Angela Green, Marion Hurley, Rosemary Rapp, Julie Early, many that we've covered on Unfound. I think Victoria's falls into that category. You should know that we almost covered this disappearance way back in the early days of Unfound. I'm going to say sometime in early 2017. In fact, I'm sure if I go back through my notes, I think I had I don't know if we ever did a phone conversation, but I think we talked back and forth a little bit over Messenger. I think this is before I had any assistance. This was just myself. I think this was before Emily, but I knew about this disappearance, but we never did get to cover it for Unfound. But her husband, James, is on trial. I've not been following it. A couple of my assistants have been. I've seen what they're saying about it. It's a no body case, so we know all about those. We've talked about those many times, how difficult they can be. Blood found in the house. I think what probably caused people to really believe James is that Victoria had attempted suicide twice. Failed. And what they discovered is that James had another girlfriend before Victoria ever went missing. I think that James and this girlfriend tried to keep things on the down low. And then after Victoria went missing, they said, oh, we just met and we just got together. But I think there was a lot of evidence that they had known each other and were with each other before Victoria went missing. So that is a trial that is going on right now. I'm guessing on Court TV or whatever. Carrie, you'd know more about that than I would. Carrie says, I recommend following it. It's a great example of how difficult no-body crimes are to prosecute. Thank you, Carrie. So yeah, if anybody is stuck at home in the snow, maybe you want to put on Court TV and follow what's going on with the Victoria Prokapovic murder trial. Her husband, James, is on trial for that. So we'll see if the prosecution can get it done. And of course, most importantly, will Victoria's family ever get her remains? Will James, if he did murder her, will he ever reveal where her remains are? That's the other big question. Not only will he be found guilty or not, but will they find the remains in the process? Shri says, such a fine line between believable and provable. Yep, and it's funny you say that, Sheree, because I was just watching A Few Good Men. Was it yesterday or the day before, where he says, it's not what I know, it's what I can prove. So true. So true. And spoiler alert, the girlfriend he had at the time just committed suicide while in jail for perjury for this case. Wow. Okay, Carrie. Thank you for adding that. I didn't know that. The other news item I want to bring up is there was a man who went missing in the San Francisco area on January 9th. And missing persons report was filed. The family hired a private investigator. And it turns out that this guy, it seems, was in his house the entire time. His name is Christopher Woitel, Woitel. Now, what is interesting about this, and I guess this happens, if this guy's living by himself and doesn't have anybody who checks in on him, could have had a heart attack, and nobody might, if he doesn't have a job or whatever, people might not know he's missing for quite a long time. Very possible. In fact, being that I live by myself, some of my friends have made that same comment that, Ed, if you ever, die, in your house of a heart attack or something, it may be a while before anybody knows. Now, granted, doing this program and everything, I think people, and not hearing from me, I think people maybe will find out a little quicker maybe than the average person who maybe isn't online and doing episodes and communicating with assistants and everything else. But, and so they make that joke about that. And I think that I told them, that would be pretty cool. I know it's morbid, but if that happens, it would really, really be cool to be dead and then freak these people out when they do come over here and find that I've been lying on the floor or something for like a month or something and be all mummified or something. I don't know. But I hope that doesn't happen. If I'm going to go, I hope it's quick, but I hope it's going to be a few years. But the interesting part about this is that they filed this missing person report and he was found in his home, but the private investigator they hired said that he went over to the home and checked the home and Chris wasn't there. But that's where Chris was found. And my attitude toward private investigators. So I can't help but think that this private investigator didn't do that at all and just said he did. Now, there are some other things. Christopher, the guy was found, I think maybe was losing his mind a little bit before he disappeared, if that's what we can even say now. And then his phone was found on some homeless person or something. I don't know what to make of all of that, but I just find it interesting that he was found in his home, and the private investigator said that he went over to the home and went inside and everything, and Chris wasn't there, but that's where Christopher was found. I'm telling you, can't trust them. Just cannot trust them. It's crazy. All right. Agreed. Yes. Yeah. So glad Court TV is back. Okay. So that is on Court TV. If anybody wants to watch the trial of James, the husband of Victoria, I'm going to have to look that name up again. Prokapovic, Prokopovitz. Prokapovic. Anybody wants to watch that? It's on Court TV. Yes, Carrie says, us assistants would notice pretty quickly. We all jabber quite a bit. Yeah, you might notice fairly quickly that if I wasn't responding to anything, that you'd probably get a little suspicious, right? Kim says, if I'm not on Facebook for 48 hours, report me missing. Okay, going to write that down, Kim. Carrie says, another janky, Janky, PI, or a serious hoarding situation like the guy from the Mickey Mouse Club. Yeah, I remember that, Carrie. Eileen says, maybe he knocked on the door and left. I guess it's possible, Eileen. It's not a very good investigator, though. Valerie, okay, I'm here finally. We'll watch the full episode tomorrow. Hello, Valerie. Screaming, if you don't see me at my favorite taco joint within 72 hours, that I'm missing. Well, what is your favorite taco joint, Screaming? Inquiring minds want to know. Delane asks, Kelly Sigler, former Texas DA, always says that if you have enough circumstantial evidence, a case is winnable. Well, it's certainly true, Delane. It also depends on, what are those circumstances? And, it just depends. Screaming says, Boca Chica Taco House. Sounds good to me, Screaming. Sounds good to me. Tacos. I'm not the biggest Mexican food fan, but yeah, tacos are good. Fish tacos, shrimp tacos. Yeah, with some hot sauce. Good stuff. I can remember way back over 20 years ago when I was riding in the truck with my brother Brian, and he would go down to the docks in Long Beach, California I think that's where it was, to get banana trailers, bananas coming in, I guess, from South America. And he would take a whole truck full of bananas back up to Salt Lake City. So that's all he did. From Salt Lake City to LA, back to Salt Lake City, backing up Route 15 that goes right through Las Vegas. I can remember riding with him a few times, and there would be the taco trucks, the food trucks down there at near there. And man, did they have some of the best Mexican food ever. Wow. My brother and I still talk about that. Just fantastic food that they would cook up in those. Now, food trucks, I think, are a lot more common now, but maybe it's always been an LA thing. But, there'd be a couple different food trucks there, and would always get the Mexican food because it was so good. Whew. The cilantro and everything, it was so good. Like I said, my brother and Brian and I, who lives near me here and who I do trivia with, we still talk about that. So good. All right. See you, Delane. Thanks for joining in tonight. Good to see you. Thank you. Yeah. Street tacos, Carrie. Yeah. All right. Let's get to Friday's disappearance. We're going back to, I guess you'd call it my hometown, although I did not grow up right in Pittsburgh. I am from the Pittsburgh area. Covering the disappearance of Kayleen Oehling, Oehling. Let me say that again. Oehling. She disappeared from Etna, Pennsylvania on January 10th, 2020. And the guest is her father, Jason Oehling. The title of the episode is Preying On, Preying space O-N, Preying On. Kayleen, like I said, was a 20-year-old, and she was there in Etna. She was hanging out with some of her friends. She was staying with her mother, but her mother's house was like 10 doors down. And at the time, though, Kayleen was seemingly in a relationship with a guy who's 45 years old. Guy, not a very nice guy. We do mention his name in the episode. His name is Michael Mano, Manno. And there is enough evidence to show that she was pregnant with Michael's child before she disappeared. She was with her friends early on the morning of January 10th. When I say early, like 1 a.m, and she was communicating with Michael. And she left the house to go meet him. He was going to be, he was from Penn Hills, and I'm going to be doing a video for this disappearance so you know where these locations are. He came over. She walked out. She walked down the street to meet him at his car. He does not deny seeing her that night. He admits it. Their phones pinged off the same cell phone tower at that time. But then, as you would expect after that, Michael's stories are not consistent. He made up the story, or not made it up, but this, a Freudian slip there. He says that he dropped Kayleen off with a guy named Marcus. No last name, no location. And we even have video that is posted on the unfoundpodcast.com, a video where there were protests going on outside his house in Penn Hills, which is outside of Pittsburgh. And it seems Michael Mano did not know the cameras were rolling. And he said to one of the protesters, hey, and you can barely hear it. Once again, it's on the unfoundpodcast.com right now. If you go to the Kayleen Oling link right there that Natasha put up. Michael Mano says to one of the protesters, Kayleen is swimming with the fishes and you will too. You can see that on that video. So he's a bad guy. And Kayleen's family, very passionate advocates for their daughter. Jason has done a ton of stuff. Has done several different interviews, both national and local. He's even though he's not in the greatest of health, he's gone scuba diving in the Allegheny River, which goes past Etna, looking for his daughter. So this is probably going to be a little bit of a change in cases that we've covered so far in 2021, where there seem to be at least a few different choices, viable choices. In Kayleen's, unfortunately, I think there's only one. And maybe in that way, it's very much like Marion Hurley's, Angela Green's, Rosemary Rapp's, Julie's Early's, and many others. In fact, let me just look at some of these other ones, just so I know Danielle Sleeper, Christy Nichols. So you might even be able to throw Cassandra Ramirez in there, maybe Chelsea Cobo in there. So Kayleen's is a little bit different than the ones that we've covered so far this year, but we'll give it our best shot. But I felt compelled. This is probably the newest disappearance we've covered. It's just a little over a year old. It's from my former hometown of Pittsburgh. That back in 2018, I worked with the Tribune Review on some disappearances. And so cannot forget about that area. So we are going back there this coming Friday, February 19th of 2021. Once again, this Friday will be the disappearance of Kayleen Oling from Etna, ETNA, Pennsylvania, January 10th, 2020. The guest is Jason Oling, her father, and the name of the episode is Praying On. I think that's about it. Let me just make sure. Let me see if maybe I've gotten some questions. Where's my cursor? There's my cursor. Let me make sure I haven't missed any questions that have come in since the show got started. Let me see. I think that's it. So no more questions for this evening. And so I think I'm going to call it a night. So what do we do tonight? Long show, a lot of great topics brought to you by yours truly. Talked about that snow all over the United States, but it's really kind of been beautiful here. It was really nice. It was overcast, perfect temperature, not very windy. This weekend, I will be in North Fort Myers for disc golf, leaving Friday, so you can expect the episode to come out early. Talked about Sky Burnley poll, just talking in general about the episodes we've covered so far in 2021, some of the toughest that we've done ever. The special episode that came out on Monday, Jason Landry, Robbie Hertz remains identified, and I should state that it doesn't look like it was foul play, although they're going to continue to look into that, but remains being found so close to his truck. Shout out to Marky Davis from We Help the Missing. Please check that page out. She was a guest of Unfound going way back to Jeremy Burt. Next Monday with Dr. Telesco talking about Joshua Guimond. Also next Monday, Unfound on the Ground, Unfound Now. Aleah Scheible that came up this past weekend talked about the no-body case of Victoria Prokapovic. Christopher Whittle was missing, but he was found in his house. Took some great questions. Got to talk about my celebrity crush, Bo Derek. Talked about Ojo Sasi by Shakira. Shakira, what else can you ask for? That's all I got. What do we got? Some questions here. Hold on. Good night, Delane. I'm an unpredictable and spontaneous in my daily activities. I'll be likely dead for weeks before anybody finds my body. Well, I hope not, Flower Bomb. Tampa food trucks are awesome, are they? I don't think I've ever eaten Flower Bomb. I guess you're from the Tampa area. I've never tried one yet. Carrie says Michael Mann is a scumbag, regardless if he is guilty or not. My personal opinion. Yeah. Kim, you're very welcome. Good night, Cherie. Everybody stay warm except for Florida. Cherie. All right, I'm out of here. You're welcome. You're welcome. Good night, all. Thanks, Ed, for all you do. That's what we do here. It's my life's work, Maureen. Thank you. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the support. Thank you for tuning in. And you will see me or hear me Friday. Good night.